All right, welcome to Pipe Classic Live, presented by GlasseX. We are here in outer space, hovering above the Bern Gallery in Burlington, Vermont, where the action is happening thousands of feet below us. I am your host, Eli from Montana, with my fellow host, Raj and Tech. Raj, welcome to night 2 of the action. It has been an eventful 24 hours here in the space station. Had a chance to go down, offload a little bit, get down, check out the competition. So we are going to talk about what happened in heat number 1. But we also do have on the live stream heat 2 going down right now. You can check that out. We've actually got the quad box. We can throw it up there, and you can actually see these artists. We have got Windstar, Icky, and Ham all going off up there. Make sure to check out the Pipe Classic Instagram if you are not following that. Big shout out again to GlasseX holding us down tonight. Glass Torch Technologies and Mood Mats every night and throughout the Pipe Classic. So, Raj, like I said, we've got a bunch of materials. We're going to break down Heat 1. We have got Hickory, Coil, and Hick Dog. Yep. And we were just talking before we went live here. So Hickory, I was going back and checking the stats here as far as Pipe Classic lore and the history. This is the final ultimate Pipe Classic here. And Hickory is one of the Pipe Classic OGs. This is actually his 4th Pipe Classic. He came in first place in 2011 at Pipe Classic number 6. And actually during that faced off against Coil in Pipe Classic number 8. So a couple years later. So veteran competitors. Yep. And then we've got Hick Dog, who certainly is no stranger to the world of glass, to say the least.
Or competition.
Or competitions. But first Pipe Classic, we just double checked with the man himself, Tito here, fact check that. Hick Dog's been around, been in the mix. Huge name in the glass world here at Pipe Classic, throwing down right now. So, Raj, before we get into all this, maybe just some broad observations about sort of what the energy is like down there on the ground in the Bern Gallery at the Pipe Classic. I know they've got sales going on. They've got a photo contest going. There's glass flying off the shelves all over the place. What are just kind of some observations before we get into heat number 1?
Well, it's getting hot down there. There's more and more people filling that room, and the energy is just getting higher and higher.
And people forget, this isn't a real athletic competition. I mean, It is a test of stamina in that you are behind that torch for 12 hours consecutively over the course of 2 heats. And again, there are 4 main rules at the Pipe Classic here. Everything must be made from scratch. It must be made here at the Bern Gallery. Everything must function, right? And all materials are here. So we've started to see some pictures coming out from heat number 1. You mentioned that it is getting hot.
And humid. The humidity really was peaking right as everyone was getting ready to finish their pieces, and they were downing water up there.
Absolutely. So again, reminder of the physical challenge, and we'll talk about this. I mean, what a great way to lead right into Hickory, our first competitor. We've actually had Pipe Classic Insider out there on the floor throughout this entire week, talking to all the different competitors, and actually had a chance to catch up with each one. So before we get into Raj's breakdown, we actually had a chance to speak with each competitor after their heat, thanks to Pipe Classic Insider. So let's start it off by talking to Hickory.
Here we are with Hickory, a Vermont legend, a Pipe Classic pillar. Been at this event how many years now?
This is my 5th Pipe Classic.
5th Pipe Classic, former champion.
11 years ago.
11 years ago.
Yeah.
And so since that time, what have you noticed has changed in the competition in your work? And what did you bring here that you brought that year you won?
I guess I've kind of always continued to do what I do. And I like being able to incorporate more of myself into the piece and bring all of my skills that I've learned through the years, even if it's woodworking and whatnot, bringing all of that into it. And I think the Pipe Classic really hasn't changed, but I feel like I'm probably twice the glass blower that I was when I first did this. Right. I look back on my previous works and I'm just like, wow, it's 11 years. I mean, that's a career for some people.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like it's an amazing event. I'm so humbled to be a part of it. I'm so thankful to be a part of it.
All right, production time. We love watching it. Thank you again.
Thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Huge shout out to Pipe Classic Insider with a breakdown. We mentioned hickory. This is 5th competition hailing from in the mountains here in southern Vermont. So, Raj, I know that you had a chance working with one of our talented photographers here to actually get some snapshots and break down the hickory piece. So,
yeah,
we're not going to do the full reveal until the very end, right? Because especially you want to be here down there where we are. Thousands of feet down there at the Bern Gallery and at Nectar's at the end of the week with the culminating party. But until then, we do have some pictures of the pieces in process. So kicks right off here with some of Nick's pictures.
Sure.
And let's see what you checked out from hickory.
So my first thing that I really noticed about his blow this year was that it was very calm and collected. The whole time, it didn't seem like he was struggling or had any anxiety. His pace was steady the whole time. So the first thing that we see here is that he's using tubing to make solid attachments, and he's heating up and down this tube and cutting that tube into multiple sections. So he was able to create a lot of prep very quickly using that technique.
And we talk about this, something folks who are familiar with the competition format, you only have so much amount of time. So like you said, one of these techniques, and we'll talk about this throughout the week, being able to produce all these intricate pieces and just all these pieces when you know you're going to have a lot of something, making them all at once and doing it quickly and efficiently. So
yeah, you got to figure out those tricks, and he's clearly done that here.
Beautiful.
Let's get that next group of images up here. So this is one of the guidelines, is that you're allowed to bring found items, and he brought some really cool wood pieces that he incorporated into his final piece. One is that large stump you see in the background, and then he's also working that staff sort of piece as well, which I guess has actually been his walking stick for a number of years, and he decided that this is the moment to really birth it into this piece.
Perfect. So, very cool seeing mixed media come into effect. If you're watching hickory, the style. Not a surprise, to see wood being incorporated. We expect a lot of that. And really this is a great opportunity for all these artists, to take their style, expand on it, do what they do bigger and better and in this tight format.
Yeah, I feel like he brought a lot of poetry this year. With knowing that he's been here for many years, he's been through the ringer many years, and like he said, bringing everything cohesively together, I thought it was very poetic.
Well, and you want to talk about composure too. We talked about things are hot up there, it's slippery, everything is extremely safe, but you're working with torches, you're working with glass, you're working with hot items, people get burned. This does regularly happen. So, we saw people even having to overcome physical, injuries as part of this as well.
Yeah.
Right on. So, moving on from hickory, talking about Coil, our second competitor in heat number 1, hailing from Western Massachusetts. Again, not Coil's first Pipe Classic. We talked about back in Pipe Classic 8, facing off with hickory. So, Raj, tell us a little bit about Coil's piece, what you saw, what you observed. Before we do that and check out the pictures, let's go back to Pipe Classic Insider, and we can hear from Coil fresh out of the pit at the end of heat number 1.
All right, we're here with Coil, fresh off his 3rd spin on the Pipe Classic carousel. How did it go, man?
It went better than I thought.
Yeah?
For sure. Yeah, I was a little worried I wasn't going to be able to get it done in time, and I cut some corners, but I'm super stoked that I was able to do it. Hickory gave me some good advice about trying to keep it more simple.
Yeah.
I was really stressed out this morning. He gave me a ride in, so
all right.
Big ups to Hickory for.
So it was the right booth this year.
Oh, of course, yeah.
All right. Well, it's a joy to watch, man. Big move. It was awesome. So
yeah.
Thanks again.
You want to get a shot of it?
Yeah, let's get one in the kiln.
Really leave it open for some.
Hell yeah.
All right, little bit of a sneak peek there at Coil's piece, and again talked a little bit about that camaraderie. Gave a shout out to Hickory, one of the fellow competitors.
Yep.
We talked about this a little bit last night. Competitors who are moving around trying to accommodate each other. It's hard to travel with glass, all your equipment. So big shout out to all the competitors here looking out for each other. And let's talk about Coil's piece itself and the work.
Yeah, Coil, his body of work he's been on the forefront of this industry for years and years and years, and I think one of the things that he really brings to the table is movement and character and the ability for the piece to say something without, using words. I think he's really a master in that regard. And here's a picture of him using some calipers. He uses a lot of calipers to, get everything, his proportions correctly, and it really brings the realism out of his pieces.
And we talk about Coyle coming from a scientific glass background, so it's interesting. All these glass blowers, all these, lamp workers, torch workers, functional artists have different backgrounds and different sets of skills that they bring, whether it's Hickory working with natural items, woodworking, Coyle working with maybe more calipers, scientific equipment.
Yeah, his foundation was based in scientific glass, and that's a really good starting point. If you can start there and then go into the artistic side, everything's going to be so much stronger. This image here, he's using a milli to create his eyeball, and being one of the rules that you have to make everything here, he had to take the time to pull a whole milli just to make the 2 eyeballs in his piece. So that was a calculated risk that he took as well.
And we'll talk about throughout the week, breaking down some more of this technology and terminology, but being able, like you said, prepare these intricate pieces that you're going to use within this one piece. And, as he mentioned, having to figure out where you're going to simplify, cut corners to be able to make sure you finish on time, and that it's functional.
Yeah, normally you would just pull a whole milli and then, use that for weeks and months or years. So I think that was a great move. And, let's pull up the next image. Here you can see he's really bringing the movement into that piece with the angle of the leg and getting it very lined up, and I thought this was a great moment of his performance.
Definitely. Well, and like you said, you think about Coyle and that style, the characters, whether it's the apes, the bears, we see that now. What is this that we see?
That is him adjusting the angle.
Okay.
I don't think he was quite satisfied with the movement of the piece and the way, the realism aspect of it, and he went back to adjust it.
And that is technically something very difficult, right? I mean, once you have something set, going back and adjusting, usually not in the cards for, certainly for amateurs.
Yeah, especially thick, solid attachments like that. That was definitely a risky move there. And then the other thing I really noticed was how quickly he took all his bridging off, all his work in the end. He used scissors to snip everything off as opposed to just pulling it off one by one. And he did a really good job bouncing back and forth between his Bunsen and his torch to get everything off in one shot. I thought that was great.
Beautiful. So, again, talking about all these competitors with just the amount of skill they bring to the table. We talk about this. This is not just the All-Star game. This is the dunk contest within the All-Star game, and especially with this really difficult format, constricting everybody. So, without further ado, talking about our third competitor in heat number 1, again, certainly no stranger to the competitive glass world and the glass world in general. Hick Dog, hailing out of Phoenix, we mentioned. So, we will go to Pipe Classic Insider, get a conversation with Hick Dog. We know he's really high energy. We were talking with Tito before, a competitor who's been around, really excited to have in the competition this year. So, Pipe Classic Insider had a chance to catch up with Hick Dog right after this piece was done on the floor. Let's hear that interview.
Here with Hick Dog after an absolutely electric debut at Pipe Classic. How did you get so much in those 12 hours at your first time here?
Partly 2 things. Shout out to North Star for their slugger bars. It makes some things very, very quick to be able to do some large scale stuff when it comes to sculptural. And then I relied on Frit, of course, as a way to get my style and color tubing going, and it's very quick to do, and it allows me to get large sections of it going. And then the third thing is I made sure I showed up with the 3-stage torch with foot pedals and raged as hard as I could on that torch. You can see how burnt my face is. Like I'm burnt because this torch just cooked, but it got through everything that I needed to do. The other thing is I made this piece in my mind over and over and over and made a list of step by step so that I knew when to do what, and made sure I didn't forget things or miss little details or do something backwards here or there.
Right.
And just like remaking it in my mind over and over and recreating that list helped me to get here and just stay on point and get it done.
And after making your mind that many times, having actually done it in live competition, are you happy with the end?
I am. It came out better than the practice runs. I had less issues than the practice runs. The materials that I brought and used, shout out to Competitive Glassworks as well. They hooked me up with some color tubing that worked beautifully, and it made my job so much simpler, and everything flowed smoother because of it.
Yeah, well, you made it look easy, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be here, man. It's I'm sad to see it going away, but man, the Pipe Classic and all the people that run it really know what they're doing. They're an awesome group of people. So
now you can just enjoy it. Let's
thanks,
go.
guys. Let's go.
All right, beautiful. So you get a little bit of the hype there. I mean, Hick Dog, talk about consummate professional. Hit on a couple of these themes: the preparation, the technology, you know, having the equipment, having the plan, having it practiced out, you know, coming here and being able to execute, you know, throughout all of that. Raj, give us a little bit of a breakdown here, because I mean this piece, and again, you can check these folks out on the Pipe Classic Instagram. We got a lot of action shots being updated throughout, so you can kind of get a little bit of a sneak peek on some of these pieces. But give us a little bit of a breakdown here on what you were checking out with Hick Dog.
Yeah, he really came with the gusto. I mean, he is extremely dialed in. I would say he's at the top of his game, and as you know, this is the best he's ever been. In terms of thought process, in terms of your resiliency to the heat, in every way, I think he came prepared.
I mean, you hear the clarity there. He had the you know, the presence of mind to shout out the sponsors right at the end of that too. You know, yeah, absolutely, that focus.
Yeah. So this first thing I noticed about his piece is that he made it multi-sectional, so he could get a lot of scale to his finished piece without having to hold it all the time. And he took the time to really dial in each of these sort of components that fit into each other, and that was very clever.
Now, checking out these other, and again, big shout out again to Nick Constantino Photography, providing us the snaps throughout here. Tell us what we're looking at here, because this looks like extremely complicated. I'm terrified, just have anxiety looking at this.
Yeah, so the other aspect of you know, found items is that, you know, you can bring electronics, but you have to assemble them all, just like everything else has to be made in-house. So he wired up, I think it's some sort of lighting setup that's gonna hold his piece. I'm not sure exactly how that's gonna fit into the concept. We'll find that out on Saturday. And so here's just different angles of how all that process is going. And you know, it's nice when artists can bring in other sort of mediums into their body of work.
So I mean, again, we're seeing already in just that first heat, like really like tactile, multimedia pieces. Saw hickory with a wood. You know, we're seeing electric equipment being used here by Hick Dog.
Yeah, and it was a nice little plot twist too, because when I saw him making this, I was like, whoa, he's making some sort of crazy blow tube bridge. Like, I don't know what sort of crazy piece he's gonna make. And then it ended up being, you know, something else completely altogether.
And another thing that we really should mention here, you know, this is a really good time to mention it. Competitors have to move these pieces as well.
Yeah.
You know, so that is, not only do you have to complete the piece, but you also have to be able to move it without breaking it, is the obvious caveat. And there has been heartbreak before. A lot of it's been captured on film. Shout out to Dr. Whitestone out there, feeling better. We've seen those tragic moments before. And so even when you're done, you can have this enormous, really delicate piece. You still got to be able to move it and set it within the allotted time.
Yeah.
At the end. So bigger, not always better, but you know, I think that is something we've seen throughout the years of Pipe Classic. You know, people making these really large kind of set pieces, and that is a real challenge, being able to move them.
Yeah, and it's always a balancing act with, you know, if you don't bring scale to the table, the other aspects of your piece, the concept, the color work, the functionality, those parts of it have to be much stronger.
Beautiful. Looking ahead to heat number 2, we mentioned we've got Ham, Windstar, and Icky. Icky, first-time competitor. Windstar, first competitor. Actually came in through the Pipe Classic qualifier, our first production that we did here in the studio with a very talented Steven and Tyler, making it happen behind the decks. So we will be excited to bring you that. The action will be going down down there on the ground in Burlington, Vermont at the Bern Gallery starting in the morning. We encourage you, come down, check it out. You can get a judge pass still. You can still get tickets throughout the rest of the week. And again, another huge shout out to GlasseX for presenting tonight, as well as Glass Torch Technologies. Spoiler, I mean, not spoiler, but like a little bit of a preview here if you're still sticking around. We've got report talking about people traveling on spaceships. Yes. Wally and Willie are out there somewhere in the mix, right? And they've got a surprise.
I had a chance to speak to them earlier.
Okay.
And the prizes that they brought this year are so next level. And we're going to have them, and they're going to explain this new technology to everyone, and it's going to be amazing.
Awesome. Fellow travelers from outer space, we are very, very grateful to them. All of our sponsors, we want to give the rest of them a real quick shout out here before we sign off. All of our sponsors that we had here tonight. We mentioned Glass Torch and Mood Mats, Sunset Lake CBD, Higher Elevation, Mr. Z, Glass Vegas, Fat Guy Edibles, The Min's Pipe Show, Highly Rooted, Forbin's Finest, Puffco, Green State Gardener, Magic Man, Bushy Beard, High Seas Gallery, Somewhere on the Mountain, Glass Alchemy, Canna Planners, Willie's Wood, Perky Planet, Moksha Cannabis, The Sticky Brand, The Scale, North Jersey Diamond Wheel, The Formulation Station, Appalachian Farms, Stoked, and Off-Piste. So, big thank you to all of you making it happen, especially GlasseX for tonight. Big shout out to our competitors. Congratulations for our Heat 1 finishers. Heat 2 competitors will be back on the torches tomorrow. In the meantime, I am your host, Eli from Vermont, signing off.